Hello, and welcome to Introduction to Business. I'm your Professor John Harvey, and this week we're going to keep it kind of short, guys. So in terms of schedule, you're working on chapters 7 and 8 this week. You just finished the test that covered chapters 1 through 6, and you guys did a great job. No issues, no major kind of challenges there. The one thing I would say is that I am having to, and I mentioned this initially, but I think it's probably worth just going over again. Um, I'm trying to clarify for you guys on the assignments that they're due the week that they come available. So I was kind of having that second week available and trying to show that to you guys, and I had just so many people just look at that and think that's the due date that I've had to kind of lock it down. So you'll see all the material. It comes available on Wednesday and it closes Tuesday night. So you have 1 week to get everything done. That's the way the course is designed. That's the way the syllabus reads, all of that. I have that second week available where you don't get penalized, but that's only if like it's a major situation, a major circumstance. And I've had plenty of those. I've had students that, they're delivering babies or they're getting married. I've had, students like get stabbed or shot or in the hospital or, all sorts of kind of crazy life situations. And for those, yeah, I'll give you an extra week. And that's what that second week is designed for. It's not so that you can kind of push things off. So for that reason, I'm kind of having to kind of tighten it down so that you see the due date is, that Tuesday night at midnight. Make sure and get your stuff in. For the most part, you guys are doing well, but I just need to, keep that really clear for you guys. I'm kind of having to, make that really obvious so that you make sure and get your assignments done the week that they come available. Last thing I want to bring up is there was a discussion board topic about, I think this is a kind of an older one. If I remember, this was chapter 4, but it's definitely one that I'd like to talk about and kind of help you guys with. We're talking about the different governmental systems, the different economic systems that happen in countries. So we talk about capitalism, we talk about socialism or a mixed economy, and we talk about communism. And the takeaway I want you to get with all that is that it's really a scale. It's like a pendulum. It'll swing. On one end, you have capitalism, which is no government intervention, free market. This is what Thomas Friedman was pushing for. This is what a lot of the founding fathers were pushing for. So this whole idea of capitalism is that very little government involvement, if any at all, in business. And so that just allows businesses to function and work and, meet the needs of people and, follow the supply and demand. On the very far side of that, you have communism, where you say the government needs to control all business. And the government's focus is on providing stability, security. Nobody has to worry about retirement. Nobody has to worry about health care. Nobody has to worry about any of this stuff. The government provides everything. So you do your part, and the government does its part to distribute all wealth evenly across all the people. So in between those two extremes, you have socialism. And socialism kind of works a little bit of both ways. It does focus on inequalities, trying to, take care of that, but it also allows for some of that capitalism, so people can still own businesses and still make a profit from those businesses. What you find is that, it kind of swings. So if a business is profitable, then the government, starts to want to take more and more of the profit from the business for its use. And so in all reality, here in the US, we're a mixed economy. We're not fully capitalist. We're closer on the capitalist side than we are on the communist side. And right now there seems to be kind of a move to push towards the socialist kind of side. So we're kind of swinging in that direction. You're seeing that when people are talking about free healthcare. Well, it's not free. It means the government is providing healthcare. And if the government's providing it, it's because they're taking it from taxes. The government can't do it for free. Otherwise, that's how countries and governments fail. So there has to be some sort of revenue, some sort of taxation that will compensate and provide that stuff. Same thing when we're talking about, well, free college, right? Okay, so we got free healthcare, we got free college. All of that has to come from some form of taxation. So you're either taxing people or businesses or some combination of that stuff. And so all of these efforts are kind of that push towards providing some equality. Like you should say, oh, everybody should be able to go to college. Okay, if you do that, then what happens is you have to take that from someone, so some people that are paying for their college should get reimbursed or something, right? Where does that money come from? Well, it has to come from some force, some process. So right now, we've had some political moves that have really pushed for that socialist agenda. In the past, we've had a lot that have kind of pushed towards that capitalist agenda. And, so I try not to get super political. I want to give you guys kind of that balanced approach. I feel like that's my job as a professor, is to provide that information to you. So, I'm not saying one's good or one's bad. I have my own personal leanings, but for this class and for you guys to learn, you need to understand that there's a pendulum. It kind of moves, and it can move towards capitalism, and it can move towards communism. And we're kind of seeing a lot of push towards the communist side right now. And so that's something to be aware of, is that you can look at these other countries that are running these more socialist countries, more communist countries, and you can look and say, what's their economic system look like? What are they getting from that? And so that's something to kind of be aware of. A lot of times there's talk about Sweden or Finland or these places, and you're like, oh, they've got all this great healthcare, and oh, they've got all this great education and all this stuff, and you'll find that they have really high taxes, and so that's how that happens. All right, so the last part to this, just and the book brings it up and calls it brain drain. And it's the concept that as you move towards this idea of redistributing wealth, um, people that are collecting wealth feel that that's unfair. And so, if we were to take your tests that everybody had here, right? So everyone finished their tests, and I said, okay, well, let's take the people that did really well, and let's take some of those points and give them to the people that didn't do very well, so that we can bring everybody up to the same, to the same grade. If I were to do that, next test that you take, how hard are you going to study? Right? You're going to go, oh, okay, someone else will do it and I'll get the points. And so you lose a little bit of that motivation, knowing that, you're going to be provided for, right? So you lose that. If you're not a little hungry, you don't keep moving, that's kind of how that works. So what we find is in these countries, and what we find in this stuff, is that that entrepreneurship is an innovator. It's an incubator for progress. People find a need, they find a pain point, and when they, figure out how to provide for that, they get some economic benefit. That's kind of how businesses work. And so it's kind of a cool part to our country, is that, any one of you can come up with a great idea. You can work really hard at creating a business around it and selling it and doing whatever that kind of business is, and you can become wealthy in that. And we've seen, the over and over, we've actually seen kind of the end result of that is not just that somebody becomes rich and they just sit there on their millions. The people that become really rich end up donating it, end up driving good causes. I mean, our public libraries are that way. But we could go into all that, but I'll keep this short. People that collect a lot of wealth end up kind of pushing for a way that they can provide that back. And there's been, a ton of evidence of that. The most recent or the easy one to point to is like Bill Gates, right? Bill Gates and Warren Buffett have amassed, billions of dollars, and they're not just leaving it to their kids. They're actually trying to change the world with it. So that's kind of the end result. So thinking that companies just collect money and that they're just going to stay rich and that's all they're going to do with it kind of misses that end point, which is they get to a point where they're sustainable and they're running and they have a lot of wealth and they're changing the world, and then they want to further it. So all right, guys, with that, have a great week. Like I said, work on chapter 7 and 8. It's open now and it'll close Tuesday night at midnight. So all right, guys, take care.